Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, building experiences that connect, remove friction, and deliver insights. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless here live at AICPA Engage 2022, and we are so happy to be three-dimensional again. I am here today with the Managing Director of Whitman Transition Advisors, Bill Carlino. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Oh, thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me.
So, Bill, why do you do what you do?
Well, it's like anything else, Ed. There's a big need for it. Succession planning is something that should be addressed the first day a CPA firm opens for business, but rarely is it ever done that way. So what usually happens is they procrastinate like anything else, like going to the doctor, and by the time they realize that they don't have anybody on their quote-unquote bench to take over the leadership reins when they want to slow down, they're forced into, or they're prompted into merging for succession, depending how many years they want to stay on, or closing up for good.
Yeah. Someone who shall remain nameless, by the way, from the AICPA once talked about this during a session here at this conference a couple of years ago, where he said he would get calls 2 or 3 times a month from widows, and the first of CPAs that had passed on, wanting to know what they should do with regard to the sale of the business. And his question to them was, has the funeral taken place yet? And his rationale was, if that funeral had taken place and people know about it, the business is already gone. Mm-hmm. So is it just a fear of mortality? Why do people CPAs who probably advise people almost every day to take care of their financial house the right way, why do they have this problem with the cobbler not having the shoes for the children?
Yeah. It's been my experience, Ed, and I've been doing this for almost 15 years, that CPAs are among the most suspect business people that you will ever encounter. In fact, I'll tell you a true story, a case study. I was working with a CPA in Michigan. He was a sole practitioner, about $1 million, and we had gotten all the metrics from his firm to send out to prospective successors. And he calls me and he says, guess what? My landlord just offered me a great deal. I signed another 5-year lease. And I said to him, seriously? I said, you know what you've just done? You've alienated 90% of the firms who may want to acquire you because A, they either have to sublet your space, okay, or they have to pay the lease on it. So he goes, yeah, but I got a great deal. I said, but you've just eliminated a major portion of people who may want to take you in. So that, unfortunately, that is not that uncommon a scenario. Maybe not lease extension, but, procrastinating. And, one of the questions I most frequently get is, what is the ideal timeline? And I say usually it's 5 to 7 years before you want to slow down from full time. I never use the R word, retirement, because that scares a lot of people. So I say, how many more tax seasons do you want to work full time? Because my standard answer is 5 to 7 years. And they say, well, that sounds like a long time. And I said, well, think about it. I said, pre-pandemic, how many times were your clients actually in your office across the desk from you? For most firms, it was one time a year. Tax time. They'd drop off their organizers. You'd have a discussion with them, then they'd leave. So if you only see the majority of your clients one time a year, when you think about a 5 to 7 year timeline, that's only 5 client visits. So you've got 2 to sort of prepare them for the transition, and then 3 for that all-important handoff to the new hierarchy and the new management. So your clients have to become accustomed. People choose, and a lot of people laugh when I tell them this, people choose accountants in many of the ways they choose dentists because they feel comfortable with them. On a personal level, I don't work in New York City anymore. I commuted for almost 30 years, but my dentist is still there. I'm comfortable with him. I like the guy. But if I suddenly walk in one day and there's a new guy sitting in his chair and my dentist sold his practice, I don't know this gentleman's or woman's skill level. I'm not going to go to them. Same thing with an accounting firm. You're a long-time accountant. You walk in one day and he's not there. What are the chances you're going to still use who's ever there? So The real asset, obviously, to an accounting firm is Exhibit A, the clients. Otherwise, you just got a lot of desks and computer terminals.
You used a really interesting phrase there when you said that the clients need to become accustomed. The clients need to become accustomed. And this is funny because I have for years, you probably heard me speak occasionally where I will say customer instead of client, and it drives people crazy. But the reason why they need to become the clients need to become accustomed is that exactly that. It needs to become their custom to engage. And this once a year thing, to me, is absolute madness. Why CPAs weren't on top of this relationship and either, not even, it doesn't have to be quarterly, but let's check in over the summer. Right. Why do they space these out to only worry about tax season?
Well, I think that's the one of the unintended consequences of all this technology. Like, if you have clients, you may email them, you may have team calls with them, Zoom calls with them, you may call them physically on the phone, but physically in your office one time a year, and as far as transition, there are a lot of ways to handle that. And I'll tell you another case study. We had a practitioner out on Long Island who decided he was going to retire. And the only thing he loved more than accounting was golf. So he bought a house down in Florida. But what he did was he had his office line transferred to his house in Florida. So he gets a call from a longtime client after he had merged, and he said, Murray, you remember that problem we had 5 years ago with the IRS? Well, guess what? It's back. And Murray said to him, I do remember that. It was an absolute nightmare. But my new partner is an expert in this field. Let me talk to him. 2 heads are better than 1. So instead of Murray calling the client back with the answer, his partner calls him back, and hence the transition. Had Murray called him back, the client would have still kept calling Murray. Now he calls the new partner of the successor firm.
Yeah, and it's a matter of handoff. But to your point, though, that 5 to 7 years could be really shortened if CPAs had a more custom or customer type relationship with their person. So
I was speaking not too long ago at a conference, and some sole practitioner stood up and he says, I will never sell my firm. I'm going to die at my desk. And I said, Jerry, that's exactly what you're going to do. Because you have either that or you're going to shut off the lights. That's either you merge or you shut down. That's it.
Yeah, and is that what you really, really want?
I was going to say, firms that are not progressive in terms of transition and succession planning are going to create real estate and client opportunities for firms that are.
Well, Bill, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
I'll tell you, without a doubt, Vince Lombardi, the legendary coach of the Packers. Okay? Now, here's a guy from modest roots who a lot of people don't realize his first coaching job was a girls basketball team in New Jersey. He started coaching girls basketball. But he built trust through his players and through a strict code of work ethic, and built in 9 years, built a dynasty, and everybody rallied around this person. He knew how to lead, and leading obviously isn't just indigenous to football or to any other sport. It's to an accounting firm, it's to an insurance company, to anything. So Vince Lombardi will always be one of my heroes.
All right, and lastly, Bill, how can somebody get a hold of you?
Whitman Transition Advisors. You can. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm not that hard to get a hold of. Give me a call, and we'll be happy to help you if you have a succession problem.
All right. Bill Carlino, Managing Director, Whitman Transition Advisors. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.